Hello, everybody. I am so glad that you're here today. This topic is so near and dear to my heart. And I firmly believe that my supplier relationships really helped to catapult my agency much quicker. For those of us who are just meeting for the first time, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sheila Folk. I am the CEO of Travel Industry Solutions, and I am a travel advisor just like you. I spent nearly 20 years in the hospitality industry and have been in agency ownership for just about 4 years now. TIS was really born out of my own frustrations as a travel advisor who was new to the industry. And then also as an agency owner who started to expand my agency and grow, and I just really didn't have those resources available to me today. So today, we are going to talk about how you can get the most out of your suppliers, what you should be asking for from them, how you can turn them into a profit center, and also why, particularly today, you should provide your customers not only with your own terms and conditions, but the supplier terms and conditions. So I just wanted to mention that if you're decent from the neck up, I would love to see your beautiful faces on here. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation today. However, in the follow-up email, I am going to attach a PDF, which gives you all of the bullet points in the presentation that I'm going to make today, in addition to having the replay video. So yay, I love seeing some of these faces here and some of the early birds who arrived to the meeting prior to 1 o'clock. Okay. So for some of you on this call, you may already know this information, and for others, you may not. But I really wanted to start by talking to you about how suppliers actually work. Many of the suppliers have an inbound reservation team, and that inbound reservation team is often incentivized by the number of sales they make. They're compensated through bonuses. It may be monetary if they achieve so many points, et cetera, et cetera. So the more that you book with a particular inbound res agent, the more money they make, and the more money they make off of you, the more willing they are to do things for you. And I'll tell you a little bit, I'll tell you a story about an inbound res agent that I started working with a couple of years ago and still work with today. The second thing is BDMs. They have goals that they have to meet quarterly. And so it is their job to make sure you are as successful as possible, because if they don't meet their goal, then there are implications for them. So they are there to be your resource. And again, it's the same thing. The more that you book, the better that they look, the more they are bonused. So when you understand how the suppliers and the BDMs and the inbound res agents are compensated, then you can start thinking about how you're going to build those relationships with those folks. For instance, many of you know I book heavily into Regent Seven Seas cruises. I had been very frustrated with not being able to find the res agent that was perfect for me. There's a lot of good ones, but I wanted someone who was perfect for me. And, you know, in my typical fashion, I called up and I was like, look, do you know anything about such and such and such and such? I mean, do you know Regent inside and out? And the young guy on the other end was like, of course I do. I know everything there is to know. Well, this gentleman had just started a few days prior, but he was so convincing. And what he was really good at was taking notes about all of the things that I was requesting. I need this, I want this, I need you to make sure that you understand my clients and who they are. And when I email you, I want a prompt reply, yada, yada, yada. His first year, he was the #1 inbound sales agent. I went to South Florida and I had lunch with him. And that's when he told me the story that he had only started a few days prior. But our relationship and the things that I asked for and my expectations and my standard is what he based his entire model off of for all other res agents all other agents moving forward. And so the more that he improved his skill set, the more money he made because more agents were booking with him. And he's still #1 today. And a lot of those guys make a lot more money than even some of the account managers and BDMs when they're really, really good. So now I can text him on a Sunday and make a request, and he will even hop on his computer for me. So those types of relationships are really important when you have clients who need something out of normal business hours or need special favors, etc. So that's how suppliers work internally from the BDM side and the res agent side. I wanted to mention to you that not all mass market suppliers have dedicated inbound res people that you can email or call directly, but I encourage you to inquire when you start using certain suppliers more and more and more in your business. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, perfect. Okay, how can you best use your supplier partners? I don't know about you, but when I first started in this business, I had not been to every continent. I had not been to, every city or state or country. I didn't have a lot of in-destination knowledge. And I also didn't have a lot of product knowledge. I had never actually even heard of Regent 7 Seas before I became a travel agent. I had not cruised on many of the lines. I had not done an extensive amount of adventure travel with different tour operators. So when I started working with certain suppliers and I started to see a trend in my business, I used them significantly for that quickie destination training that I needed so that I could look really, really smart to my advisors. It's kind of like, people who want to sell Africa. There's only so many properties. There's only so many camps. So align yourself with a DMC who can give you a quick rundown about the different regions of Africa, the seasonality, what you can see, what's possible, what makes sense in terms of a route. Align yourself with one because they are more than willing to school you so that you sound super intelligent. So use those suppliers as your, as your go-to for any type of knowledge you may need on the destination, the tours, the hotels, etc. The next thing is suppliers will give you marketing dollars. Especially as you start to work with that supplier more and more and more. If you show a level of commitment, they will support you in any way, shape, or form. They'll support you with cruise nights. They'll support you with travel nights if they're a land package. One of the things that I did early on in my business is I have a girlfriend who lives in a gorgeous home on Park Avenue, and she would host cocktail parties for me, and invite all of her friends. And then I would have a supplier come in and basically pay for a lot of the food and the booze. And I would present to this group of people, focusing on a particular supplier. Don't be afraid to ask for that type of support, whether it's cocktail parties, special events, email marketing dollars, advertising dollars. They're more than willing to help you out. And I know a lot of newer agents don't realize that there are funds available to them. Once you start having a great relationship with those suppliers, they will also be a referral source for you. And so this is why you really want to hone in on the types of suppliers that you use. A lot of suppliers out there have an agent area on their site. I find that I have several BDMs who, as you know, they travel often. They're in the airport. They'll be talking to somebody sitting next to them and talking about what they do. And they will, the person next to them will say, hey, how can I do this? You should call Sheila Volk. She's the one who can help you. So I have gotten referrals from my suppliers that I work with heavily. So that's another great resource and how you can best use your suppliers. The other piece is that some of these suppliers have relationships with organizations. And part of that relationship requires them to travel to specific events for that particular organization. Rather than having the supplier send their BDM or a sales rep internally, they will often tap into travel advisors in that particular area or region. So when you become tight with your BDM or your suppliers, they start to tap you to represent them at these events. And it's super simple because you drive in or you fly in, everything is there. You set the table up. They'll have a raffle for you that you can give away. So you're collecting business cards, and then you get to keep those leads. It's nice because they're warm leads. You're interacting with those folks at those events, and they're getting to know you, and they're getting to know your style and your agency name, and they connect you also with that brand. So don't be afraid to ask your supplier partners if they do events like this where you can represent them. It's a really great opportunity. Okay, what should you be asking for from your suppliers? Let's first talk about the cruise market. So let me ask you a question. How many of you are on the pre-sale list for any of the premium or luxury cruises? You could just give me a raise of hand. Okay, I see Gina, Scott. Okay. How many of you knew this existed? So only a couple of people. Okay. When you start to work with dedicated inbound res agents and BDMs, they are going to alert you about pre-sale. And particularly right now with COVID, you want to be able to jump on that, alert your clients who you know like or cruise that particular product, and get your list of customers into your res agent before it goes on public sale. So if any of you know, When Oceana launched the sailings for the Vista a few weeks back, it was record sales for the company. And those advisors who knew about the pre-sale early enough were able to secure cabins for their customers. This is also very true when you move into the Grand Voyage and World Cruise space. Those are like dog fights, not kidding. You're on pins and needles, and if you're jockeying for a position for your customers. So it's really important for you to ask for those pre-sales. How many of you ask for the single supplement sailing list so that you readily have that available when you have a client who is calling for low single supplement, or you're able to push it out to your solo travelers? They're available. Ask. Go to your BDM and ask if they have a single supplement list. Frequently ask for these because they do update them. They will also update and provide you with the low performing sailing lists. The great thing about the low performing sailings is that you can often negotiate additional add-ons for your customers. Maybe your customer has a finite budget and you want to get them on a particular product, but their budget isn't quite where it needs to be. So you can proactively offer up those lower performing sailings, which will usually have more offers on them. Also, it's a great way to market and push out to your customers. Some of the things that you should be asking for from your inbound res agent as they get to know you, and this is really going to pertain to those in the premium and luxury space, is they should automatically be adding any special promotions or onboard credits without you having to ask. They should add on any consortia amenities. They should be looking for the best offers. They should be providing assistance on booking shore excursions and dining reservations for your clients. This is how you're going to get bandwidth. These guys are compensated for their sales. It is their job to do this for you. So I book a lot of Grand Voyages and World Cruises. I don't know how many of you have been onto the Regent website. It is slower than molasses. It would take me hours and hours to book this type of stuff for my clients. I send a list to my res agent and he does it for me, and I'm off to the next customer. I don't have to worry about it. So when you start to train these inbound folks, or you develop a relationship, or you set a standard, they get to know you. They get to know what your ideal client looks like. I have some clients that have over-the-top requests. I mean, let's just leave it there. Over the top to simple requests. You know, I need extra drawers in my closet. I want pillow selection on arrival. I want unsweetened boxed coconut milk delivered to my room as I run out, you know, remove the coffee maker. Well, my inbound guys have my client's profile saved. So that's the way that you can use them, and they make you look really good. Okay, land. Again, land, that's a whole nother animal. I get very, very frustrated when I work with a new supplier who just churns out the same package that they've churned out for 10,000 other customers. It irks me to no end. I also believe that any budget of customer can have really cool, curated, unique experiences. So when you start to ask for special, different, unique experiences for your customers and you make it known that you're not willing to accept anything less, they will start to deliver that for you. And the more you work with a particular supplier, the more they get to know what it is that you want for your customers. They should also be telling you the why they selected particular experiences for your customers. You want to know that because your customer is going to ask you that in all likelihood. Thorough and complete itineraries. If your supplier that you're working with is making you do more work, they are not a partner. They are a hindrance. You may as well be booking these. I see Scott's head going up and down. Yes, he's agreeing with me. If they are not giving you an overview or an at a glance for you to look at quickly and see if all of the dates are there, if they've missed everything, if they are not giving you complete communication, complete final docs with emergency contact information, reservation numbers, if you're having to go back and forth like on wire instructions even, I mean, give me your zip code for your own company if I need it for your bank. This should not be your first rodeo. So all of this back and forth with your suppliers is eating into your time and your bandwidth. So on the land side, make sure your supplier is giving you unique experiences that fit your client. Of course, some clients do want the traditional stuff. They want to go to the Coliseum. That's fine. But make sure that the DMC or the wholesaler has really thought it through. Ask them for the why. Don't be afraid to call them up and give you some quick information on the particular destination so that you can talk to your client intelligently. Communication is going to be really key, the way that they deliver it and the way that you communicate with them. Okay, so how can you get the most out of your land supplier? I'm going to tell you some of the things that I do. If some of you were on the last call with the checklists and forms, you saw my client intake form. I provide a complete client intake form to all of my suppliers. This gives them a really good look at my client. Of course, I type up some additional notes about who they are as a traveler. I even go so far as to say, you know, this client walks with a limp, and so she's not going to be a quick walker, or this is what their home looks like. This is, you know, what they love to eat, or, you know, they're whiskey lovers or wine lovers. So I always send them that complete client intake form. I'm very direct and succinct about what I'm looking for. All those things that I just said to you. The itinerary needs to be complete. The communication needs to be clear, concise, and on point. I don't want a lot of texting going back and forth. I don't want a million emails. I just had to do this with a supplier that not a travel supplier, but somebody I've contracted for TIS, who kept wanting me to text me everything. And I'm like, look, I'm really, really busy. Your text messages are interrupting my phone call. And now I have to scroll back through all of these, answer my questions, put them in one email, and then get back to me. It's not that hard, but you'd be surprised at how many people just don't understand that concept. Develop a relationship with one or two key folks within each company. I use DMCs and TOs for various regions, so I'm not working from a list of 150 suppliers. They know who I am. I have a relationship with them. Let's see, limit the number of suppliers. So those are a couple of other tips. Now, how can you turn these suppliers into profit centers. I think I've really touched on this a little bit. I mean, you can kind of deduce what I was leading to. When they get to know your expectations and your ideal client profile, they can serve you better. They can anticipate your needs and your customers' needs. You know, one of the reasons why the Ritz-Carlton is so successful is because they train their people to anticipate the needs of their guests. They also become your knowledge center. And then when that happens, you can move on to the next client. They can do the legwork while you're making money on other clients or offering other services. And they also become your referral base and become your advocate. The last thing I want to talk to you about, and I know we're running a little bit over today, is giving supplier terms and invoices. Particularly now with COVID, this is really, really important. Yes, you should have your own terms and conditions, but there are some CRMs out there that allow you to invoice your client and it has just your logo on it. It might say Royal Caribbean or Go Away or whatever, but it does not have the supplier terms and conditions. You have a duty to disclose, warn, and inform your customers. I'd like to ask how many of you on this call are a lawyer? I'm not. Do you know what material information needs to be disclosed? Okay, not seeing any heads go up and down. Do you know if your supplier's terms and conditions contain any information that would reasonably be likely to influence your customer's decision? I can tell you, I'm seeing a lot of heads like this. This is why it's really important for everybody to include your supplier's terms and conditions. I know it feels kind of weird to send an itinerary to your client that has somebody else's logo on it. It makes it appear, at least in my mind, like I'm not doing any work, that somebody else is doing it. I do explain why I use supplier partners and all of the back and forth that I go through before we ever get to the stage of presenting the proposal. You can add your logo next to it, but please present the supplier terms and conditions when you are quoting your customers and before they make payment. I see some heads going up and down. Okay. Okay, so what I want to do is open this up to questions. And let me check. Oh gosh, let me go over to Facebook where I have my my comedian over here. Let's see if I can. There's no comments in Facebook. So does anybody have questions for me about supplier relationships and how you can use them and how they work? I promise you, if you start to look at this a little bit closer and you start to be more thoughtful about who you're working with, why you're working with them, and how you work with them, it will dramatically improve your knowledge, your authority with your clients, your profitability. So Michelle C asked, do you use both the supplier invoice and your own? I do not use my own invoice. I never have used my own invoice. I am hosted, so I don't collect from the client and then pay net to the supplier. I use my client's card and I pay directly to the supplier. I use my own invoice only when I am charging fees. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, let's see, we have another one. Valentina, How do you present to client why you are working with or using a supplier? So here's sort of the pitch that I use is that I only align myself with suppliers whose values and standards meet mine and my clients. I choose them based on their expertise in a particular area or region, the value they bring, the accessibility, and the professionalism. So I always position it as that company aligns with what I believe in. And your clients are buying you and they believe in you. So they ultimately will believe that you are making the right choices for them. Katie McQueen, how do you get that res agent relationship? On the contemporary cruise side, it's very difficult to get one particular person. I'm not going to lie. What you can do, though, on the contemporary cruise side is to develop a really tight relationship with your BDM, their assistant, and sometimes you can have access internally to those that are not res agents. Also understand this, and I did not mention this, particularly in the cruise market, it's very incestuous. And I don't mean that in a dirty way. What I mean by that is you will have a res agent who starts with NCL and they are an inbound res agent, and then they go to work at Oceana, and then they become the assistant to the BDM, and then that person then leaves and goes over to Regent, and now they're a director, and they flip back and forth between the brand, the family brand. So the nice thing is that once you get to know folks within the family of brands, they will start to move you about the whole brand. Does that make sense to everybody? And also, a lot of folks don't know this, but they hire a lot of family. It's my brother, it's my son, it's my uncle, it's my this, it's my that. You know, my uncle is also my boss, who used to be my subordinate. So understanding how that works is really important. Do you send the supplier T&Cs as a link or the full text in your proposal? That is from Scott. So Scott, on both the cruise and the land side, I get an invoice. So when you get the proposal from the supplier, it's going to have the terms and conditions already on their invoice. Some of them will send it as a separate attachment. Regardless of how you receive them, they are in the invoice or as an attachment. So send them just like that. A lot of people don't realize if they clicked through to those terms and conditions links for a lot of those suppliers, it would just blow their mind. I mean, they are so long and so detailed. It's enough to scare you into leaving this business. But you're doing your duty. Heather, when you talk about a single supplement list, do you see it changing cruise to cruise? Yes. So usually the single supplement sailings are going to coincide with the lower performing sailings. That is typically a trend that you will see. So when you ask for that, you'll find it mostly in the premium to luxury space. Occasionally, you may find it in the contemporary space. You will find it in the escorted tour space. So there are certain escorted tour providers who have special single supplement offerings as well, because I actually have one client who travels solo at least 2 or 3 times a year, and we are always on the hunt for that low single supplement. Let's see if I answered everybody's questions here. How do you get that res agent? Oh, I already talked to you about that, the res agent. You know, Katie, the one thing that I didn't mention is I only talked about the contemporary side. But if you go into the premium or luxury space, ask other travel advisors who they use and why they like them. Ask your BDM also who the most popular person is. Generally, their popularity will coincide with how good they are as well. So you can ask your BDMs as well. Okay. I think that this about covers it. We went about 10 minutes over. I wanted to mention to you guys, if there are times for the rest of the training that are not suitable for you and you are part of Nexion or outside agents, they will be releasing their wave season training schedule, which I will be conducting for them. There is no training on Friday. I am actually going to have some mom time for 12 days. So I am leaving next week to hop on the Regent Seven Seas Splendor in Greece and Turkey. For many of you who know, I'm a widow. I have no family in town. My daughter is great. I drag her around the world, but I'm going with girlfriends. So I will be back to you guys, I believe November 16th. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email us at hello@travelindustrysolutions.com. And I look forward to connecting with everybody when I get back. So have a great afternoon.